For a long time, we've talked about the need for collaboration to help scale a circular economy. But how does that work in practice? Later on, we're going to hear about an initiative that are working on that. But first of all, to help me set the scene, I'm joined by my colleagues, Mark and Sarah. Welcome both.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Hi, Pippa.
So Mark, can you set the scene for us where we're at the moment with collaboration?
Yeah, so ultimately to scale a circular economy, we need more companies to launch circular products and services.
Yeah.
And to do that, internally, they need to create a positive business case for why they should do that. And we see hundreds of companies, loads of examples of real products and services in the world where that's happened. So leading companies who've made that possible.
Yeah.
But we've also got to recognize that in many places that just isn't possible. It's not commercially compelling. It might be because there's a lower margin or a longer return on investment, or perhaps the infrastructure that's needed for that product doesn't exist, or the behavior change that would be needed to enable it's really seismic. And so companies can come together to share knowledge and learnings, to find the roadblocks to do that, and that can enable more companies to scale individual offerings. They can come together to advocate for policy change to make those propositions possible. Or actually, they can do something else. They can also, within their own agency, work together differently and collaborate commercially to unlock the investment, to increase the economies of scale, or to access a whole new set of customers that they couldn't do on their own.
And Sarah, to bring you in there, what sets that commercial collaboration that Mark's talking about apart from other styles?
Yeah, definitely. I think Mark kind of started it, but commercial collaboration, as he was alluding, it's really about going further than just sharing knowledge and setting direction or creating definitions as an industry. But it's about pooling your resources to actually shift the market and create value jointly or with your competitors. And so in our research, we've kind of identified 4 pathways, I would say, that companies can come together and kind of work on. The first being accelerating innovation. So companies can come together to pool data, to actually share their IP or create interoperability, which helps reduce costs and speed up research and development, really, especially at that system level scale. Second, companies can, pool their buying power and actually aggregate their demand or set advanced market commitments, which again reduce costs oftentimes, but also kind of instills that trust in new novel solutions or technology and allows them to be commercially viable at a larger scale. And then thirdly, companies can do what we all talk about a lot in the circular economy, which is building shared infrastructure. So pooling their resources and developing critical assets, infrastructure, and logistics to address those shared bottlenecks that we all know so well. And then fourth is driving customer adoption. So this is actually where companies can have joint marketing efforts and messaging to enable that massive behavior change that we need while also expanding their customer base.
And normalizing it as well, right? So it's the industry norm instead of this outlying company.
Exactly. And just simplifying it, I think, for the end consumer or their customers.
So it'd be great to hear more about whether this is actually happening. So what examples do we have?
Yeah, I mean, as Mark said, there's tons of examples from the linear economy and fewer from the circular economy, but there are some great ones that we've seen, especially where, competitors are working together. And one is the HolyGrail initiative, where they've actually brought the full value chain to collaborate on accelerating innovation for digital watermark technology, which helps with post-consumer waste sorting to kind of enable that recycling that we need at scale.
And we're really lucky that our colleague Sander was in the initial phases of setting that up. So rather than us trying to talk about it, I asked him to sit down with his colleagues. He spoke to Gian de Belder from Procter & Gamble and Margherita Trombetti from the European Brand Association, AIM, to talk about their experiences and how it's evolved. So shall we listen to their conversation?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
We're here today to talk about Project HolyGrail as a great case example of large-scale co-opetition between a group of stakeholders across the value chain. Project HolyGrail emerged back in 2017 as a pioneer project in the Foundation's plastic initiative, where you, Gian, pitched the idea of exploring together the potential of digital watermarks in packaging, and that attracted a lot of companies to get together and work with you. But maybe before we dive in, Gian, can you tell us very quickly what are digital watermarks and why are they so important?
A digital watermark are basically tiny codes, typically the size of a post stamp, that are added either to the print of a package or to the molds that are producing these type of packaging materials. These codes are then most of the times imperceptible towards consumers and truly provide a digital product passport to the product. And then obviously with this digital product passport, the waste sources and recyclers can do a much better job in terms of sortation, right? So they can easily sort items on an article level, simply because each article has its own identity. For example, it allows to sort food from non-food, which today is a big unmet need specifically for polyolefins.
And then you pitched a project to work together as a value chain. Why was cross-value chain collaboration so important to make digital watermarks work?
Yeah, in the past we have seen that there were a couple of isolated cases where people tried to work together with a few players, but it was always limited. And if you don't agree upfront on a system as an industry, then obviously you cannot create scale. And that's the most important, I believe, right? So you form a cross-value chain collaboration with all of the relevant partners. You agree on a certain technology to be implemented and tested into the marketplace. And only then you should ask, the brand owners and retailers to embrace that technology and to foresee samples into the marketplace. So the key here is really to create a scale and align upfront before you bring new technologies into the marketplace.
Yeah, so crucially important to get both the upstream value chain players and the downstream players to work together, make the whole system work. And I remember that one of the first things we did was kind of with the two of us back in the days, kind of organizing this workshop. Must have been the world's first workshop on this topic in the packaging industry. And it attracted many dozens of organizations to actually join and participate and think about how this technology could be of use, what the potential was, etc. So given this was a completely new topic, what do you think motivated, yourself as P&G, but also the many other organizations to get engaged and get involved in the project?
Yeah, I think, for several years we heard a lot about the transition to a circular economy requires systemic change, right? Which is indeed a true statement, as we need to go beyond the status quo. And also in similar conversations, we hear a lot about collaboration needs, right? Typical multi-party and so on, which is truly needed, fully agree. But what is really needed is collective action with a full cross-value chain, including your competitors, right? In order to scale and to make a huge impact. And I think that's really one of the things that the new plastics economy from EMF allowed us to do. It allowed us really to find a space to reach out to the members at that moment of time of new plastics economy, but also beyond members, because we also had some non-members at that moment in time. But that's what's important, right? So it's more about just talking and telling people that systemic change is needed. It's really driving an action, right? And I think overall, HolyGrail has been a very nice example of such a cross-value chain thinking. In HolyGrail 1.0, as being worked as a pioneer project, we basically had 31 members. And in HolyGrail 2.0, we actually had 176. So a very large group, a very large representation of a full value chain. So at the end, we're all using packaging. Either plastics or paper, it doesn't matter. It's truly needed for everything. And we're all using packaging. All of the brand owners and retailers are actually using it. And they're all ending up in very similar recycling bins and being sent to sorting facilities operated by the different waste managers. So those are the critical partners, but you also need to attract the players in between, right? So technology providers, sort machine vendors, packaging converters, resin fiber producers, even universities as well.
Yeah, and you referred to collaborative action being absolutely crucial, and it's a nice bridge to HolyGrail 2.0, because HolyGrail project resulted in an attractive vision of what's the potential of these technologies, and then HolyGrail 2.0 was the next step, and kind of taking that to the market, to actual real trials, I should say, and that's where AIM came in as a brand association, which is a nice transition to Margarita here. So Margarita, maybe you can talk a little bit about what was the role of AIM in starting and running HolyGrail 2.0.
AIM was the facilitator of HolyGrail 2.0, meaning that we coordinated all of the work packages that were part of it. So making sure that all of the experts would convene in the right fora, which we called work packages, followed up on the actions, and always making sure, of course, that given that there were competitors in the room, we were always compliant with the competition rules. At the same time, we also had a technical team which oversaw all of the trials that we conducted from start to finish. So they did not only prepare the planning and also the test protocols, but they also oversaw the tests as they were executed. And at the end, they were collecting all of the data and compiled the final reports to be shared then with the members and with the wider audience. Next to that, we also had in charge the communication part, both internally, so always making sure that all of the consortium members were informed about what the others were doing, so the status and progress, but also about the trials when we started with those as well. And we also participated in conferences to make sure that we would communicate about whenever we were hitting a new milestones, that was communicated properly. And that was also reflected in all of the press releases and public announcements that we have made throughout the years. So that's essentially our role in a nutshell for HolyGrail 2.0.
And talking about these major milestones as HolyGrail 2.0 is coming to an end, what has HolyGrail 2.0 achieved?
Well, we have proven that the digital watermarks technology, in combination with the current sorting technology, the near-infrared one, sorts post-consumer packaging waste at a degree of granularity that would not be possible and is not possible with the current sorting technology alone. This is a big milestone, and in order to do this, we have basically activated all of the players from the full packaging value chain, making sure that we would pool expertise and resources. And we have done that via a phased approach. So at the beginning, we partner with the technology and machine suppliers to produce the prototypes, which were then tested in lab scale. And then we moved to semi-industrial testing, so installing them in plants and trying to resemble as much as possible industrial conditions. And then we went all the way to the final part, the final phase, which was installing the prototypes in real-world commercial plants that are running every day, and testing them and proving that they work also in real-life conditions.
Great. And you talked about prototyping, testing, real-world kind of trialing. So if we dive a bit deeper into how that collaboration between all these stakeholders actually worked, because collaborating across the value chain comes with a lot of challenges, especially if many competitors are involved. So what were the things you as AIM have put in place, or the things you've done to make that collaboration work and make that run smoothly?
At the beginning of HolyGrail 2.0, we developed the legal framework within which we needed to operate. We had a charter which was outlining not only the objective and mission of the consortium, but also, more importantly, the governance we had a leadership team, and then there were all of the different work packages, but also the let's say all of the conditions under which a company or organization could join the consortium, as well as the rights that they had and what was expected from them, because everybody needed to play an active role and also complying with the rules. So that's why also, as I was mentioning, we had a legal counselor that was sitting in all of our meetings where competitors were present to ensure indeed that we would always comply with the antitrust statement. And this also brings me to another point, which is about data. Whenever we had to collect sensitive data from companies, for example, the attributes of the packaging that they were enhancing with digital watermarks for running the trials, it was AIM who collected that because we were the independent party. And then we would only communicate data and results in aggregated form to protect sensitive company data.
Right. So proving the technology works in practice was main achievement and main milestone of HolyGrail 2.0 that's concluding now. So what's next? What's the next step from here on?
Well, now that we have proven in 2.0 that we have a technology that works from a technical standpoint, now we want to prove the economics. And that's why we have started a new consortium, which is called HolyGrail 2030 Circular Packaging. And the name already indicates that our ambition is broader. So we have the 2030 packaging and packaging waste regulation targets in mind, meaning that packaging needs to be recyclable and then actually recycled at scale and needs to include a certain amount of recycled content. And we called it circular packaging because it's not only about intelligent sorting. We want to bridge, and bridge is really the key word for that, between different technologies, between all of the different parts of the packaging chain, and unlock that circularity that the industry really needs to meet those targets. So proving the economics means that we will not be looking at one technology. We will be looking at multiple technologies, not only in sorting, but also recycling. That's why we are partnering with several recyclers using different technologies. And we want to prove that that works economically from an economic standpoint from all of them, so that we have also a return on the investment for each stakeholder in the value chain that is actually investing and believing in the system.
Gian, a question for you. Like, how would you encourage your peers, your own company, and others in the value chain to participate also in this next phase, HolyGrail 2030?
And since last year, I'm also working then indeed on this landing strip, specifically on the Belgian one, because there is an unmet need for food-grade polypropylene film materials. Right today, it simply does not exist at large quantities, and so that's indeed the reason why we are now looking into this program, focusing on the commercial aspects, definitely, but also then trying to identify which type of recycling technology, being mechanical recycling or dissolution recycling, actually can bring and offer me food-grade polypropylene film, right? So that should be the driver, I would say, for brand owners which are active in films, in food films for polyprop. So thinking about predominantly, chocolate confectionery, chips packages, and these type of things, all need to have PCR by latest 2030, right? So it's the right time really to join, to be part of this movement, to have access to all of the data, assessing different type of recycling technology, which eventually then will be able to produce the right PCR for those food companies, right? So we indeed only can encourage more brand owners, but specifically also the retailers to join these type of initiatives.
So being ready and prepared to meet the EU packaging waste regulations that are coming up very soon, and one of the key drivers to be part of this. So this whole project over all its phases has been a great case example of co-opetition between the whole cross value chain. If we now zoom out a little bit in people in other industries working on other topics that need similar types of collaboration like this, like what would be your advice or tips, or kind of how would you encourage them to get started? Maybe starting with you, Gian.
Cross-value collaboration is essential, but it needs to be much more, right? So we need to evolve to collective actions, right? That's the first point. The second important point, I think, is don't wait till the technology is fully de-risked. Start with what's available today and learn on that one, right? It's eventually what we're now also doing with the Belgian landing strip, and eventually pivot at the right time if required, right? So I think it's important if you work on these type of collaborations that you remain technology agnostic. So I think those would be my 2 lessons.
Great. Any advice from your side, Margarita?
Yes, fully agree with Gian's point. Maybe one to add is that the companies also need to be clear on what they want to achieve. So they need to understand what's in their capability now and what they would need to have in place when the targets kick in to be able to meet them. And then try and indeed partner with the other companies who have either already been through that so that they can learn, or invest and explore together. And indeed, to Gian's point, it's something that it cannot be made by one company alone. We're all interconnected, right, regardless of the industry where we operate. So it's important to always have open communication channels with downstream and upstream suppliers to close the loop.
So thank you to Sander, Margarita and Gian for that. And Mark, if people want to find out more about this or more about other case studies, where can they go?
Yes, so the HolyGrail initiative is a really great example of accelerating innovation, which is just one of the 4 types of commercial collaboration that we've been identifying. So if people want to go and learn more around commercial collaboration, then they can check out the case study collection on our website.
And we'll link to that in the show notes so everyone can find it easily. Mark, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for listening to the Circular Economy Show. If you enjoyed this episode, then please share it with anybody that you think would be interested, and we'll see you next time.